And welcome back to Alterminds post-holiday.
Indeed.
How was your holiday, Ange?
Honestly, not great.
Okay.
Really not great. Combination of a whole pile of things. Family member in the hospital with some pretty major medical issues and stuff. Did I just hear your chair go off? I can't see, so it just
Yep.
sounded. That's your
Yep.
new
I,
chair, is
I,
it?
I lowered my chair.
I love it.
Sorry.
No, no, it's all good. I mean, it's the
Getting
thing,
comfortable here.
but it's a new chair, right? So you're gonna got all
Yes.
the right bum squeaks and everything in there. Yeah.
Sorry.
Uh,
Go ahead. Your holiday was not
Yeah,
good.
and I mean, my husband doesn't do very well with the holidays or
Mm.
anything. Family estrangement, all that kind of business. There's a lot of that in my own family. Honestly, it's exhausting. And then you've got all the expectations of like, hey, everybody wants you to put on a happy face because it's Christmas.
Yeah.
It's like you. It's not about like, hey, you have no idea what I'm going through or anything like that. It's that and
Yeah.
right. It's like I just really wish there weren't the pressure to have the happy Christmas as opposed to like, can we just all recognize that everybody needs a break right now? And that
Yes.
includes from Christmas because Christmas doesn't
Yes.
start in December anymore. Now it starts in September,
Yep.
right?
And it's like down your throat everywhere,
Yeah.
especially as we get to like November. And then what I noticed is like, have you ever seen the movie The Grinch with Jim Carrey in it?
Yes. Oh, it's
Okay.
been a while, but yes, I have
Okay,
seen it.
so in the beginning of that movie, all the Who's are going nutso because they're all buying stuff. Like it's
Yeah.
like now 99% off, and they're like and they're all buying stuff. And that's
Oh,
how I felt like the world was in like late November, early December. I felt like everybody was just so focused on buying things, and I was like, this is not what Christmas or what those holidays like I celebrate the solstice, like, longest night of the year. But like it's not what it's about. It's about like, winter's the for me anyway, it's about winter being the longest time of longest night of the year, and then about going into shorter days. So you're celebrating that you're done with the dark and you're going into the light, and we're
yeah.
going towards spring, right? So that's, but I know for other people it's about different things, but that's what it's about for me. And I'm like, there's nothing my in my want or desires to need gifts, but everybody makes it about the gifts and makes it
Yeah.
about being perfect. It has to be the perfect holiday. It has to be, everything has to go as planned, and it's just not how it works. It just doesn't work
No,
out that
not at
way.
all. Not at all. I mean, my my thing that I always said, like if, doing the whole marriage thing and all that kind of business. And I call my husband because we've been together for, I don't know, he does the math. I think it's like close to like 15 years, somewhere along those lines.
Mm.
I don't know. Like I said, he's the math guy. It's somewhere in between 12 and 15. That much I know. Anyway, we're good. Um, and I always said that if I, to do the whole actual marriage thing, it was going to be on December 30th because that's when everybody gets a new chance,
Mm.
right? If you're familiar with the Goo Goo Dolls and that song Better Days.
I don't know.
Oh, okay. Well, I'm a huge Goo Goo Dolls fan. 90s vintage. It's telling my age. I know. But yeah. And there's a line in the song like if I don't, I'm misquoting it now. I can give it to you any other time except for when I'm under the gun. And it's about if there was one thing that we could do for each other, like it's it's the opportunity to do a better day. That
No.
this is the time that we all get the chance to do that now.
Yeah.
Everybody gets to start over from scratch,
Mm.
and put the bad thing behind you and go forward. Oh God, it's gonna sound awful, but I saw a meme, and somebody said, "I really hope that you went to the bathroom and did a really great number two because nobody wants to carry that into the next year."
No one wants to carry that shit into
Yeah,
next year.
exactly. I was just like, that's actually kind of awesome. But
Yeah.
yeah,
Also, speaking of awesome,
yeah.
I really like your background. It's the Northern Lights. It looks magical.
The Northern Lights are magical if you've never seen them.
I've
Have
never,
you?
no, never.
I heard the old whisper that if you stand below them and you whistle, they'll dance. And I do believe that because, I don't know, it's just one of those things. I
Aren't
think
you aren't you
backwards can
scared?
speak to the earth.
Aren't you scared you're gonna like summon a Wendigo or something?
I'm okay with that. Look,
You're
what's
okay with
anything else is going on?
whistling at the darkness like that?
Look, I
You're
am
gonna.
more comfortable, to be quite perfectly honest, I am more comfortable walking in the dead of wood
Yeah.
in the middle of the night in Labrador than I am downtown St. John's in the middle of the night. And that's a sad truth. You know, like things have just gone bonkers. The violence and stuff that's happening, you know, like that with the schools and all this stuff.
Oh,
Like, I mean,
yeah.
I don't get it. I never understood criminal violence. I never did. I understand serial killers.
I understand it now that I've taken sociology, so I understand it from the point of view of poverty and like people and addiction and things like that. But I don't understand systemic violence, so like violence against us as people. But the kids stuff, the stuff in the schools really bothers me because a lot of those kids are that, and like kids who are acting violent,
Yeah.
are a lot of the times kids who have higher needs, right? Like, so they have
No,
needs
for
that
sure.
aren't being, they're not getting their needs met somehow. And then I feel like the NLTA is kind of, and that's the Newfoundland Teachers Association.
Yeah.
I feel like their whole campaign kind of paints the kids as these like demons, and I'm like,
Oh, they absolutely do.
so
And
it's like it's not just the kids.
it's actually bonkers. Like it's just bananas. I don't get it. You see, and they blame the parents a lot.
They do blame, and parents are suffering as it like we all in this world, and
Yeah,
this world is on fire, literally and figuratively.
yeah. Hello, Los Angeles, right? I mean,
Yeah,
yeah.
yeah.
I don't. Everything just feels so hot and urgent and aggressive and mean.
Yes, yes,
You know,
everything.
and so I'm trying to hold on to the spaces right now, and I think that like that's what Christmas kind of came down to it for me for this year. Like I just wanted it to be done, not to be wishing away time, but like my family member, they had surgery on the 30th of December. You
Yeah.
know, like it was, I just wanted it to be done so we could get to the next bit. You know, because now they've got to go through other therapies and things like that now as well too as cancer, by the way. So it was cancer surgery, and so now they've got to go through chemo and radiation. And so I'm really far away from my family member. It's been 2015 since I've seen them in person. I'm not going to get to see them anytime soon because I'm poor as dirt, you know, and they're not great financially either. I mean, and you can't be when you're going through.
Who is
You've
great
got to have,
financially?
yeah, you got to have like, what's his, Danny, oh God, he used to be
Prime
the
Minister? No, the
premier.
premier,
Yeah,
Danny Williams.
Danny Williams. There you
There
go.
you
You
go.
got the Galway style money.
Yeah.
You know, Danny Williams Galway style money to be able to, you know, go get like appropriate treatment somewhere else,
Yep.
right?
Yep.
Or go be with family when you need them because
Yep.
nobody has any money anymore.
No.
And now you find out that, you know, hey, the suspicions are true. The grocery stores actually are underweighing their meats and overcharging.
Yep.
Because, you know, the consumers didn't know
And
this.
shrinkflation. So they're actually making things small. Like they're giving you the same, or giving you like a jar of spaghetti sauce, but there's less spaghetti sauce in it than there used to be. But they're charging the
Yep.
same price or more. They're charging more actually. They're gouging. They're price
Oh, yeah.
gouging.
We used to get these tubes of meat.
I know what you're talking about.
Yeah, and so they're 1 pound meat, and they were pretty economical, 3 for $10. It was okay, but no way now. Now it's 900 grams, so you're 100 grams less.
Ooh.
You know, on each tube, so that's 300 grams down in the whole packaging,
Wow.
and they're still charging now $1 more
Yeah.
because we go grocery shopping through Instacart, right? So I mean that's how we get food. So it's more expensive on top of the more expensive to get less.
Yep.
And then we've got our medical team screaming at us, how come we can't do better with our food? Well, gee whiz, I wonder
Oh,
why.
I wonder. Yeah, and that's like me. I've been going through this whole we can talk about executive function in a second. That's our topic for today.
Well, this is part of it, right?
But the food thing for me is hard because of executive dysfunction, because of like planning it. It's like planning what you're going to eat and then actually initiating the task of preparing the food. But I've been trying to be better with like what I eat, but then it's like so expensive. It's like impossible. How do you, there's no way to, anyway, there's no way to live.
No, and that's the thing, right? Like you can't. So both my husband and I, we have different diets. My doctor wants me on mostly plants.
Yeah.
Right? Not necessarily, you know, a plant-based diet, but mostly plants. Yeah. Right? So, and that's fair. You know, I mean, we look at the rates of colorectal cancers and things like that. I mean, we just have not been eating enough raw foods, and, you know, everything is super processed now, right? And if you're somebody who's like me, and the support plans that are given to people like me don't include gardening. So even if I had access to being able to grow my own food at home, I'd be dinged for it because I'd be seen as being, well, you're too able. You don't need help with.
Oh, yeah.
Right. So I'm damned either way. Right. You pay a whole lot extra in not just this province, but this country to be disabled. We have disability rules that are supposed to prevent any of this, but nobody's actually abiding by the law, right? Like, it's a grand thought as opposed to anything that seemed relatively fair. You know, the idea is like, oh, well, you know, just grow more of your own food. Buddy, I would if I could.
Everybody makes it look so easy too. I follow a lot of people online that like do that, and they make it so they look so graceful while they're doing it. And I'm like, I would not. I want to do it. I would love to do it. I would love to have my little commune with my little garden and like living like hippies off the grid, like, you know, fuck the government. Oh, I shouldn't have said that, but F the government.
Sometimes, you know what, it is.
I'd like to live like that, but it's effort, executive dysfunction, trying to make plans, trying to do anything. And what is executive function? We should probably talk about what is executive function. It's like, it's that part of your brain that does problem solving or higher level thought. Yep. And say, so you have parts of your brain that control your breathing rate and your heart rate.
Yeah, so it's not like it's a choice, right? Like this happens to you as opposed to by you.
Yeah.
The end result is by you, but the original space where that happens is something that happens to you because it's how your brain works. Or doesn't work sometimes.
It doesn't work. And it's not, I feel like there's not enough, what do I want to say, like maybe respect, or I want to say respect, but that's probably not the right word. Again, executive dysfunction, put towards executive function, because I feel like it's not taken seriously in jobs when people have executive dysfunction, or at school when kids have executive dysfunction. It's not really, they're not really given the supports, I think, because people don't even know. Like, you'll talk to people and they'll be like, what can I do to support someone with executive dysfunction? And I'm like, hell if I know, honestly. Like, I'm
well, to me, a lot of, okay, so I'm blind, right?
Yeah.
The whole idea of me gardening and stuff is kind of like Edward Scissorhands. I mean, and the hairstyles will look nowhere near as good.
As good, yeah.
No, it's not happening. Yeah, I mean, there's a reason I'm not allowed to use knives in my house, right? So, because I like to keep my fingers. It'll be good. They're not greatly painted or anything, but they're mine.
They're yours.
For now, they operate. Yourself. As much as I can. So, yeah. But in terms of, like, being able to actually do stuff, it's, okay, so we'll use the whole grocery store thing again. In order for me to go to the grocery store, I have to get permission from a whole pile of people, first of all, through all of the support lines. Ugh.
Yeah, exactly. That already sounds like too much work.
It is. It's undue burden for sure on top of a person who's already struggling. And that's a large part of the miss, right? Like, I have to go and ask permission from people who don't have to ask for permission from anybody. They can just get in their car and go. they decide that they have, can go to the grocery store and they have enough money to do it. Lucky them. Not so much in my case. For me, it's after I get permission from all these people, then I also have to make sure that my worker has enough time to do these things as well, too. Because, unfortunately, the way the systems are, he's got multiple jobs. Right? So, I mean, there's no banking that just because now I'm finally ready to go and
that he has time.
Yeah, exactly. So, I mean, there's that racket as well. So, these are already balancing multiple plates, right? That most people don't have to balance. Right? So, there's that lack of understanding in that realm as well. And then if I finally manage to get all of those things going, then I have to have GoBus behind me.
Yes.
Well, right? So, and GoBus shows up whenever GoBus feels like it. That's there's supposed to be a half-hour window, but these days it's more like I know stories of people being left behind at the hospital after their dialysis, and they've been waiting for 4 hours for GoBus.
I've heard about that from not just so I've heard about that not just here locally, but I've heard about this. So there's people that I follow on TikTok in the United States of America, right? They deal with the same issue where they just get left by the bus. Like sometimes they'll just say the bus will leave them where they are because they don't have this or don't have that. Wild.
Wild. Oh yeah, it is. So I mean, and you're on them. If you manage to get the ride with them, then you're on their timeline. You're not on your own timeline.
Right.
And it takes me extra time to do stuff because hello, vision. Plus, mobility disability as well too, right? So just not great setup to begin with. So, I mean, I can recognize what a bag of flour roughly looks like. I can't tell you what's in it. I can't tell you if it's vitamin D enriched or anything like that. I have no idea because I can't read the stuff. I have some tools that will help me to read, but all of these things take time to do. Time which I don't have because I'm on somebody else's dime. Right? So I go with Instacart, and Instacart takes me at, just to try and avoid a lot of that hassle. I have to go with the more expensive thing, which is Instacart. And then that will take me roughly 2 days because even then I will still order the wrong thing. Like I've ordered wings and thought that they were hot wings. Or sorry, I thought they were regular wings. Turns out they're hot wings and we can't eat them. And we can't return them. So it's a waste of money. Right? There's nothing I can do. And I mean, I'll go back and check to see if I actually ordered hot wings to see, because if they gave me the wrong thing, that's one thing. But if I ordered it, it's another. Right? So, I mean, and again, community supports does not recognize that I need help doing these things. Because their premise is, we just want to make sure that you have personal care. As long as you have that, the rest of it is on you. Whether you have a support system or not. And
it's so, like,
it's not just dehumanizing.
It's
really, really, really messed up.
And it's like they're doing the bare minimum, not even the bare minimum, like, because the bare minimum would be making sure that people have all their needs met. That would be the bare minimum, that you get your needs met. Then, luxury would be, you got your needs met, plus you have some other, whatever the other things could be. I don't think this
I have to get permission from higher up in order to be able to go for a walk.
Yeah, that's crazy. People don't know what disabled people go through at all. Like people, unless they have a disability themselves or their loved one does, you don't really understand how messed up it is. How it's dehumanizing and undignified.
And a lot of people, even the family members, don't really understand.
No,
like I know of some situations through my work, and I'm trying to make sure that I don't release any details.
Yeah.
Right? So forgive my buffer. I'm sure I need a buffer that goes over. I really do. But it's so I know of some clients where, like, the client is going through it and their spouse understands it as much as they can. But your spouse is not supposed to be your caregiver as well.
No.
Right? You know, it's yes, in sickness and health and all those things for sure, but we don't make room for the caregiver anymore. You know, you can't move from romantic partner to caregiver and expect that it's going to go all well. It just doesn't. Like, we've got loads of women, loads of women who get left in the hospital. I was one of them at one point because the boyfriend didn't sign up for having to do any kind of care. You know, and then so you're left fending for your life because there was no one else. You know, and I mean, and that's the thing, right? Like when you're not confirmed or identified as being somebody who is autistic, you know, has a different neurotype for any reason or whatever, you really, like, those extra supports are critical beyond belief.
They are.
Right? And I mean, it comes down to very basic, simple things of not being able to fill out your hospital paperwork.
Oh, the paperwork.
Right? You know, and then being responsible to CRA. Like, the idea that I can appeal to the CRA for this whole CERB benefit thing and stuff like that. Buddy, I can't even pick up the phone and call the CRA, much less actually deal with an appeal.
Yeah. And in my work, what I see is, so like parents of kiddos with higher support needs, right? They are expected to do so much paperwork. It is unbelievable. And I'm like, when do you think these parents have time? Like, I've done that in my jobs previous to this and the job that I have now, but I've brought that up, that like the parent does not have the ability to do the paperwork. The parent does not have the ability to call. The parent is dealing with like a house on fire all the time. Like, it's always, there's little fires
already
everywhere.
A full-time gig.
Yeah.
And now you're expecting them to take on the other full-time gig of paperwork.
Yeah.
And you get services like, you know, the various community services around that say that they're willing to help. But truth be told, they are so tapped out, they can't help anybody out anymore either. And the expectation from the formal spaces, you know, like the health authorities and things like that, is that the community services will, you know, the nonprofits will be doing all of the work to help these out. They don't ask, they expect it.
They expect it. That's where my issue with nonprofits is that it leaves us in a cycle where the government expects, I say the government very broadly, as in any government institution, the government expects that nonprofits are filling the gaps. So then the government doesn't offer the supports, right? Because the government's like, no, this is nonprofit.
Hands off.
Okay, wait. It just said I raised my hand. That's weird. You probably, do you see that?
Your settings.
I'm going to try it again. Yeah, it's working again. Okay. Anyway, what I was saying, so the government is hands off because they think the nonprofit is filling the gaps, but the nonprofit is maxed out. Like, is not filling those gaps because they're burnt out and they're in this in a cycle that you cannot get out of because it's constant. There's constantly people in and out and people needing help with their paperwork. That's a lot of work. Yeah, it's a lot of work because you need approval sometimes to talk to, like, so say if you were my client and we needed to talk to CRA, you would have to give approval for me to talk to CRA first, and then I would be able to talk to CRA. So there's a whole process. Yeah.
You know, and I mean, the nonprofits are now pushing back on the individual to do all these things, and while I get how important it is to be your own best advocate and things like that, for sure. I mean, it is important. You have to know if...
Yeah, but do you have the executive function to do it? Do you have the energy, the spoons to do it? Like,
well, apparently it's an arbitrary thing. We're supposed to find a way to do it because it's an optional, you know, and I say that being very sarcastic because it's not optional.
No.
I spent 4 months this year on the broad of my back looking at the ceiling. That was not an optional thing.
No.
But apparently it was my problem because, you know, I couldn't pick up the phone and do all these things that I was supposed to do because they have deadlines.
Because
you know, it's not just on. I think it's so understated when we say, "Oh, we're just looking for understanding. We're just looking for acceptance." No, darn it, I want action.
I do too. I don't want awareness. I don't give a fuck. I don't
No.
give a fuck about acceptance. What I care about is, can I get my daily needs met or not?
Yes.
Are my comrades, are my other people, my neighborhood and my community, are they getting their needs met or not? And if they aren't, I don't give a crap how many days you have where you're like, we accept you. It's like, that's nothing. That means nothing, because you're
No,
not
it
giving us
doesn't.
what we need.
At the end of the day, it's a look pretty campaign, and I'm
Yes.
so sick to death of it. You know, I mean, you see politicians during Autism Month and Autism Day
Oh,
going around wearing sunglasses, like because now they're supporting.
no,
No,
yeah.
dude,
No.
that's not how support works.
No, it's not. It's just it's a facade that they put on, and it's so nauseating.
It's
And
tokenistic.
yes, absolutely.
You know, it's virtue signaling.
Mm-hmm.
At, and I mean, those are really they're terms that get overused a lot. I find lately by people when they don't really get what's going on.
Mm.
You know, they're trying to make points of things and stuff. And I get it. They're trying to learn how to engage in the conversation. But learning how to engage in the conversation is by actually listening to the people experiencing it, not jumping on the bandwagon and
Yeah.
saying, "Oh, well, that sounds cool."
Yep.
You know, let's do that.
I wish the listening was happening. What I think could work is having community town halls where people get together, like for schools, for example.
Yeah.
You have a school council, but I feel like the school council should be in talks with the whole community of parents and students to see what's actually going on in the school. They need to know from the students' perspective what's going on. They need to know from the parents' perspective what's going on. And then they need to know from the teacher's perspective what's going on. And then we can make changes because we've listened to everybody who's directly affected by the school system.
I
That's just
think,
one example.
well, yeah, and I mean, and I like the community town hall, but I would like to do it differently than we have been doing it.
Yeah, okay.
So, you know how usually like we have a town hall and everybody's, you know, in the audience, whether you're virtual or in person, and you get every now and again you get different speakers.
Yeah.
They come up and they present their bit. So the only things that get handled are the people who were able to get up and speak, which means we've just left out a whole pile of people who can't do that particular thing.
True.
And that's not appropriate either, because everybody's supposed to have a voice. Everybody's supposed to have equal voice. Get to the table. It's, you know, that's the whole belonging part, right? Of belonging to a community is that no matter where you're coming from, you know, you're guaranteed that seat at the table and to have a voice as well. And that voice has to be able to count. Action has to be able to be taken upon that person's voice, not just because, you know, they're the most popular person in the room or something, some garbage like that. So what I have seen and I do like is like the hackathon idea. Are you familiar with that one?
No, you're gonna have to explain it.
Okay, cool. So basically, we did this at MUN a few years ago before COVID and knocked everything on its ass. So basically, that you had people who wrote in to the organizers and said, "These are some of the problems that I see." So that was great, and you were the people who were, you know, were invited, and it was a community invite, so everybody had the opportunity to join in as they wanted to. So they wrote in and they saw that these were their problems. They weren't asked to provide solutions, and that's a really big thing. People say, "Well, if you don't speak up unless you have a better idea."
No, we
No.
still need to hear we need to actually know what's wrong. We need to assess what the problems are.
Well, yeah, and you need multiple inputs.
Yeah. The more,
Right?
the better, honestly. I feel like the more minds on something, the better.
Yeah, definitely. So this is the thing that I really liked about the hackathon was that we had people. So after the problem gets submitted, everybody's in the room, and it's listed. All these problems are all listed on the board, like, you know, in great big white over everybody's head. So because there was a lot of people, several hundred people in the room at the time, which was really overwhelming for me. But I didn't know I was autistic yet at the time.
Yeah.
I just thought I was just weird. So,
Love that. I love that feeling.
oh, really? It's like, okay.
I'm just weird and unlikable.
Yep. I'm just, yep, whatever. Little did I know that I had a whole big community that was also like
Weird and
me.
weird and unlikable.
Yeah. And awkward, so awkward.
Yeah.
Yeah, so, and so they had the room organized so that each table had a placard saying one of these problems.
Mm-hmm.
So basically, you got to pick the table that you identified with, right? If you thought you had a good idea that would go towards whatever problem, then you went to that table. And if there was multiples, like you had an opportunity, they swapped it up. So
That
you
sounds.
spend some time.
Sorry.
Oh, no.
That sounds like it's called like open space or something where people come together and they split up into different rooms to talk about different issues. Like, so all the issues would be written on a board, and then they would write down what room they were in, and those people would go to that room and then talk about whatever that issue is, whatever mostly affected them. Yeah.
Yeah, it's quite similar. So, I mean, so at the end of the day, we brought forth a whole pile of possible solutions instead of depending on management to come up with all the answers, which we shouldn't be doing anyway. Like, everybody bitches about all the management of all the spaces, and says, how come you can't do this? How come you can't do that? Well, and then you get people saying, well, you can't bitch unless you have a solution. I really just like this community effort, that had the only rule I liked and about the hacking health hackathon thing is what I think it was called. Anyway, was there was no government officials in the room.
Yes.
You had everybody else
Good.
but government officials because government comes in and they have the waggy naggy fingers. Says, no, budget. This wasn't even a consideration because you just wanted the ideas to be there.
Yeah.
And so I really, really like that idea, and I think we should be using that more with more things because it gives opportunity for everybody then to get to the table.
True.
As opposed to being the big wig in the room with the big title. I just anyway. So we've strayed from our original point of executive function and course,
which we often do. Yeah, we're getting close to time too.
Oh yeah, but I mean, I think like that's kind of the thing is that we haven't asked the community enough about what it is that we want and what we need.
I would like to hear more from the community. I would love to hear more.
Yeah.
Even for the podcast, I'd like to hear more about what we could talk about. Like if they want to learn about something that we could then research it and present it.
Yeah.
And say this is more about this topic.
Oh God, yeah. I mean, and I think that's the thing. Like we'll come up with all the stuff that we found relevant for us. But that's, again, still a very narrow field. We'd like to hear more from other people because it is the collective experience. I do a lot of talk, but I do a lot of talk with people I know. People I don't know, not a word of a lie. So we had a nurse here the other day, and I didn't know this nurse. And so they were, new from the care company and all that. So anyway, very good. We, I was a bit late. I was running bathroom runs. God, awful. But anyway, so I was a little bit late getting down over the stairs to the meeting and whatnot. And so everybody had their spaces. And they're like, hey, you can sit here on the couch. And I'm like, nope. And I told our worker later, I said, I really had to work at keeping my mouth shut because I know that it's not polite to say, I'm not sitting next to a new person on the couch.
I'm not sitting next to you.
Yeah. They don't like to hear anything like that, but that's the thing. New person, that's way too close for me. I would prefer to sit on the floor anyway. Like I sit on the floor, I sit on my stability ball. That's where I kind of like, I live. But when other people come into my space and I'm not familiar with who they are or anything like that, it's got nothing to do with smell or any of that stuff.
No.
Jesus, I can only see the shape of a person anyway. The point is, it's just too close into my personal space, and you're new. So
You're new.
Yep, you stay that
So
way.
you stay over there. Yeah. Well,
But I had to remember that it was very impolite that I couldn't say that.
I don't think. Well, I mean, I guess it's impolite to say it, but
Yeah.
I think it's understandable to feel it.
Yes, yeah,
Yeah.
and that's the thing, right? I mean, like, my social skill training taught me that I'm not allowed to say stuff like that out loud. Whereas, my 11-year-old nephew will walk right up to random people who, who's if their style of clothing is where the jeans are around the ankles type thing or knees to ankle area, he'll walk up to them and say, "Does your mommy know that you wear your pants like that?"
What a sweetie.
I know, what a doll. I love this kid, but he's so
Fashion police. Fashion
Yep.
police.
Oh
I
yeah,
love it.
he comes right out with it.
Okay, so we'll end off and we'll say that, if you are listening to our podcast and you want to hear about a certain topic, we would love to know.
Yeah.
And that we hope that your holiday went well-ish, as well as holidays.
I hope that people
Thank
had a
God.
more gentle holiday because, like I said,
Gentle. Yeah.
the violence is just,
Yeah.
it's also hot. That's the
Gentle.
only thing I can think of it. It's, I'm not great with putting emotions and stuff necessarily to my oral place, but, that's the immediate feeling is hot.
Yeah.
And I don't wish that for anybody.
And we will see you next time on Alterminds.
Yay! I'm so glad we're back.
We're back.
Yay!